50, but
No, takes place at
yeah.
on a grand scale, so mega scale.
Good morning, one esteemed principal, respected faculty members, dedicated coordinators, and our enthusiastic students. A very warm welcome to annual corporate. I'm delighted and honored as we have the privilege of witnessing and being part of this lecture series. This marks a departure from our usual academic discourse, offering a valuable opportunity to glean wisdom from the corporate sector. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to our principal, Mrs. M.V. Fanimala ma'am, for graciously providing us with this platform. Without further ado, I would like to invite our respected principal ma'am to share a few words and introduce our esteemed speaker, Mr. Srichand Jain. Thank you, ma'am, for this invaluable opportunity. Over to you, ma'am.
Dear esteemed guest speaker of the day, Mr. Sri Chand Jain, sir. Dear very esteemed speaker of the day, guest speaker of the day, Mr. Sri Chand Jain, sir. Dear heads of the department, faculty conveners, the IT team, and my dearest students. A warm good morning to one and all gathered here. I would take this as a privilege and pleasure to welcome each one of you to the annual corporate lecture series, which is initiated by Avinash College of Commerce, Kukatpalli degree branch for the first time in AGI. And the purpose of initiating the annual corporate lecture series is to inculcate a sense of real-time corporate exposure along with the wonderful academics that we here at Avinash Group of Institutions impart to our students. I'm sure all of you will use this platform in order to enhance your skills with regard to the real-time enriching exposure with regard to corporate world. May I now introduce the guest speaker of the day to the gathering here. Mr. Sri Chand Jain, sir, is a chartered accountant, accountancy in accountancy audit and tax from the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. It's our privilege to have you amidst us today, sir. Sir is an effective communicator with excellent numerical abilities and a vast knowledge on private equity and asset management operations. Mr. Sri Chand Jain, sir, has been working in various corporate companies for over 10 years and more. And presently, sir is the Senior Vice President in the CIT CO Group Limited. Sir has been honored with various awards at various levels. He was awarded Managers of the Year 2014, Manager of the Quarter 2013, and so on. I think it's a real blessing and fortune to have people of such Himalayan caliber amidst us. And I would appeal to each one of you, dear students, to use this opportunity to enhance your knowledge and skill set. And we cannot conclude without thanking our esteemed Chairman, sir, Dr. Avinash Brahmadevara, sir, for his unswerving support system that he offers to us to go ahead with such wonderful academic programs to enrich our students. A special mention of gratitude to our Dean, Avinash Group of Institutions, Dr. Sushila Kanduri, ma'am, for standing by us, beside us, to help us empower our students thus. Thank you so much, one and all. And I wish you a very, very enriching learning experience today. I once again welcome Sri Chand sir today. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. Yes, that's
Oh, welcome. I'm hoping I'm audible through this mic as well. If somebody can confirm, if you're good, I'm good to start as well. All right, so I'm not very used to, sorry, okay. Now, I'm not very used to being formal over the last 18, 20 years of my corporate experience. It's been a very, very informal, kind of approach and journey we've had. Typically in MNCs, you'll not find a culture of sir, ma'am. We don't call them, we call by names. We still do respect it. There's no lack of respect in how we, address somebody. So yeah, with all due respect, ma'am, if I've not called you a ma'am or if I've called you by name, sorry.
No, you have
for
called
that,
me
if that's
ma'am, in
not your
fact.
culture. Yes.
Thank
Thank
you, sir.
A little bit of, I think, intro ma'am has given. I'll just add to a little bit of intro my side as well, just so that you get a little more understanding of what I am as a person, where I came from.
Anthony sir,
Just so that we are able to relate some of my corporate journey back to my personal journey as well. So, how many of you have any leanings towards professional courses like CA, CWA, CS? Anybody? I'm given to understand that this session is mostly towards people who are uh, focusing on BBA or I think the more specific streams and not the integrated stream. Am I right, or do we have a mix as well? Okay. Mostly BBA, wonderful. And on the online side, do I have a different audience, ma'am? Completely BBA, very well. All right, now I don't want to, dilute. I think your focus is good enough, and I can tell you, I'm not here to press on my, say the CA qualification or anything. In fact, CA happened to me by chance. I don't know how many of you might hear about CA being very focused, 14 hours, 16 hours of study, and all through that hardship. Hardship, yes, a little bit, but then it happened largely by chance. By 12th, I was actually a very mediocre student. In fact, I'm also a batchmate, a classmate of one of your heads of ISFS, Gautam Jain. So Gautam and we both studied in a in a very I'd say average kind of college. It was junior college where we met first. And my percentage in 12th was only 57. It was hardly, not even say first division, right? Second division. It was 57%. All I was aiming to do was maybe, I had a little bit interest in, back in the time we had serial bulbs. Today you have LEDs. Back in the time we had, a lot of those decoration lights, which were serial bulbs. I was quite fascinated by, as a kid, I was quite fascinated by, those electrical things. So me and my friends, we used to spare a lot of time after school, doing these, experimenting on these bulbs. So at the most, I was aiming to be a, say, an electrical mechanic. So I was looking to do a polytechnic or a ITI something after 12. So that's where my marks also do not seem very encouraging. 57% is quite a mediocre. Nothing as a benchmark. Nothing as a inspiration that can be seen from there. So CA, what happened? I think I had a bit of reality check. There was we come from a very um, low middle class kind of a group where I used to sell cigarettes, guitkas as well in a shop along with my father. My father did a separate setup as well for me. So at least 2.5 years, I was through with that during my student life. And post that, when it happened, I mean, when 12th happened, I had a very, very good acquaintance. One of my best friend, he was Rakesh Kumar. he got admission in Badruka. I couldn't get it. Badruka back in the time, 20 years back, was quite an esteemed institution. It still is, but at that time, it had a very different aura. I wanted to be a part of that, but couldn't, because while I think I was far from reality. Reality was that Badruka at that time had a cutoff of 84.15% for admission, and I was at 57. Still aiming for that was my foolishness. But just backside was Badruka Institute of Professional Studies. I didn't want to lose my best friend. So I said, okay, you go ahead there. I'll be at the backside in the BIPS, Badruka Institute of Professional Studies. At least we'll be together. So it all happened by chance. I was one of those 132 students in that CA Foundation batch. A year or say 9-10 months later, when the exam results happened, there was to my surprise, I was one of the 2 students who passed the exam, again by chance. And so I still count it as only by chance. I never aspired to be a CA. I never wanted, or I didn't even see the future of it. Back in the time when I was young, I wouldn't even have those kind of, say, futuristic thoughts, nothing like that. So it was now, the reason I'm saying all this to you is you don't have to become a professional to be, or you don't have to already start aspiring to be a professional. Many a times life will throw various challenges at you and probably can have you deviate from your aspirations as well, right? It's okay, it's fine. Life will, it's good to sometimes take life as it comes than just 14 hours, 18 hours just focusing on what I want. Good to have that passion, but even if you don't have that passion, do not worry. Everybody is destined to greatness. You just have to find your moment. Okay. Now, from there, I'd like to also touch on the corporate journey, right? So it's pretty customary. The CA a CA student has to go through an articleship experience. So I was also an apprentice with one of quite a senior, practicing CA in Secunderabad. That was the office. So 3 years I worked there. That's my articleship experience. This was back in 2001 to 2004, 20 years back. And then after that, a little bit of post articleship experience, 8 months precisely, and then I joined Deloitte into its international tax practice. It was just setting up the offices here, Deloitte, as more famously called as Region 10 offices. And thereon, 3 years I was in international tax, still trying to figure out what was the, what is this whole thing. The Indian tax I was a little bit aware of by my CA academics, but international tax was even bigger, right? The whole perspective changes because your Indian CA is dealing with income tax act, income tax rules, and therefore you are only aware of a certain set how we've approached. But when you look at the international tax, that was a quite a different thing for me. Here we were looking at tax filings from companies which had worldwide operations, which had like subsidiaries worldwide. It had its head offices in let's say America, but then it had its operations that we need to consolidate and file. So that was my job, 3 years exploring international tax, but somewhere I felt that I may not have a great future here. There came an opportunity my side from Cognizant Technology Solutions. I was in Cognizant for about 10.5 years. 2008 until 2018, I was with Cognizant, and then I moved. Within the Cognizant stint, I also had an opportunity to be a couple of times to New York, New Jersey, and then a year I was at Europe, Netherlands precisely. I was there, and from Netherlands, I had my responsibility was to settle down that project, bring it back to India in Pune. So I was stationed in Pune for about 6 to 8 months. From there on, I had some personal constraints, family health issues. So I had to come back to Hyderabad. But here's where State Street happened to me. State Street Financial Services. So I was there working as a AVP for about AVP, and then I grew into a VP. So I was working there for about 5 years, 4.5, 4.7 precisely. And then I moved on to Citco Financial Services. Some of these organization names, whether it is Citco, whether it is State Street, Deloitte, you might be aware, but the last two you may or may not be aware, right? But when you work on the global stage, you will see these company names to be more familiar. Here, because we do not see it in our daily lives, we might also, not relate to these names. But it's fine. None of these you have to really remember. These are large financial corporations for working for the capital asset management industry. You will get to know once you start associating yourself with that industry. Okay, I'll take a pause here, brief pause. Like this was my intro, so I mean, quite understandably, this could be a little bit of monologue, could be a little boring as well. But I want you to also have this as a very interactive session. You can ask questions. Also, people on online can, I don't know how to. Will I know if somebody is raising hand or something? And okay. Very well. Any questions? Although this was quite a boring, first segment of it. It was only talking about me. But anything just to bring a little more energy? Any questions that you want to ask from my personal experiences? I will share a little more, on the industry perspective as well. But anything in the last 5-7 minutes? Okay. Anybody from the online? No? Good. All right, we'll now go a little more general, a little more, not specifically about me, but a little more general in the context of this industry. How, what are we looking at? Now, some of you have. So, what do you aspire to do? Are you wanting to put a pause here, or are you looking to do a MBA after this? Mostly MBA. And will it be a full-time MBA, or will it be a side-by-side MBA with a job? Side-by-side, is it? Full-time, good. Now both are good. It all, there's nothing to judge that this one is better or that one is better. Everything has, if you have the right approach, everything can work out brilliantly as well, right? Now, to people who are doing job as well as MBA, great. I think that's something that is commendable if you are able to balance both, and if you are able to focus well on each of your subjects there. I think it's a great achievement if you are able to do it honestly and with substance. Now, sometimes it could be that we are more focusing on our job and then MBA side by side, and we are not focusing so much. It could only be a tick in the box. We are only looking to do a certification. We want to attach it to our resume. Then that, I think I'd really have a concern with. Don't do things like that. It's good to have a certification, no doubt. Good to have a qualification. But when you don't have the substance to that qualification, what's the meaning of that, right? I'd rather encourage you to spend more time learning the subject to its grassroots, to its logic, the basics of any subject. If you are able to imbibe, you will be equipped to handle the practical world much better, only and only when you have your effort very honest. Now, quite possible that some people might just want to have a certification. Some people might want to um, you know, say that, hey, between the job and between the academics, it's very difficult to balance. So I'm neither here, neither there. I'm compromising here also and here also. It's a hectic thing. I can tell you, balancing out studies with a job, little bit of experience that I can draw is back from my CA articleship days, right? So, it was tough. It was tough on the body as well, and your intellectual. It drains out your energy. Now, I used to, take a first bus 4:40 a.m. from home, and then go attend my CA studies. At the same time, after 3 hours of those sessions, I used to do BCom college, and after the BCom college, at around 12:40, my BCom college would be over, and post that I would be straight going home, take lunch, end up at the CA practicing CA's office. For the next 8 hours, I was there. About 9 o'clock, I'd come back home only to be fully drained, and then rise up again at 4 a.m. in the morning. Now, this schedule for 2 hours, all I'm telling you is, if you're very focused, if you can gather those energies, great. But if you don't, this also can become an excuse that this is why I'm not able to focus. But that's what you need to precisely plan for and be very, very sure that this is what you're getting into. It's fine, can happen. A human body has endless ability. It's just that everybody has a different resistance level for it, right? So you don't know until you've challenged yourself to do that. Back to the point, right? So managing studies and managing a job can be draining, but not impossible. If you are good, all I'm saying is, don't look at it from a thing like this will be a compromise or this will be a compromise. Challenge to the core that nothing will be a compromise. You want to be 100% at here as well and here as well, right? Your effort should be 100%. Results are okay. It will come. It will be a matter of time. As long as you're passionate, you're persistent, you're perseverant, you will get your results. But keep at it, right? But with 100% honesty. Do not compromise. Do not let anything go or seem loose. Yes? Okay. I was saying about managing both. This is where the challenge could be, but this is where the opportunity also is for you to test your endurance, test your resistance, test how much of a capability do you have to offer. At this age, believe me, you can do just about anything. Anything is possible. Let no one tell you that, hey, this is impractical, 16 hours is impractical, 18 hours is impractical. I've seen people who've just slept for 3 hours and they were still good. A lot of people might, push you ideologies or, philosophies where health is important. Everything, of course, is important. But when you've achieved something, you can afford to strike that balance. You have all the time to strike that beautiful balance between health, finances, corporate life, yourself, sense of contentment, achievement, everything, will be there. But after you've achieved a certain stage, until you've achieved it, do not stop at anything, right? Challenge everything, every philosophy that's out there. You don't have to say that that's what, will affect me. No, every individual body has its own dynamics. What might work for me, what might not work for you, but you will not know it until you've tested, right? So test your resistance. Now, to people who are then going for a full-time MBA, right? All I'm saying is, make the most of every moment that you are out there, because that is your stepping stone to that practical world where people will soon start judging, perceiving about you. They'll not give you a lot of opportunities to, say that, hey, it's okay. It's like, you might not have been good at something. People will not excuse you for a lot, right? If you are aspiring high, remember you have to make every effort for you to get ready to it, right? So, like in a wedding, for example, if you're going to a wedding, the last 10 minutes of your, dress up, makeup, whatever you're doing, that becomes almost like, that's, you want to be very honest at it, right? You don't waste your time at that. This 3 years of your full-time MBA will be that preparation for you for the practical world to come. For the next 20, 40 years, this will be your, theoretical base, right? Along with theory, try adding as much as practical experiences that you can have. Your colleges these days are equipped with, giving you a lot of practical exposure. A session like this was not even there 20 years back. So, I mean, today it is possible, so you are able to, say, utilize some of the experience just by hearing it. But a large amount of these experiences you will have to gather so for you to be ready for the practical world, right? Now, here's where do not be okay with just what the colleges are giving you. Some colleges might be excellent in their infrastructure, in their facilities, in these kind of sessions, but some colleges, even if they are not, or even if they are, you can always augment it, supplement it with a little more practical experiences, whatever you could get. Once you are in a job, you are in a job for the next 1, 2, 5, 10, 15 years, right? But here's your opportunity in the next 3 years when you're doing a full-time BCom. Try associating yourself with various small to big experiences, right? Go to a factory, go to a, ask. There's no harm in asking, right? Can I know how, your operations are set up? So ask. I mean, sometimes it's okay. Maybe they might reject. Sometimes you might have a parent, you might have a relative who is in that business and he can give you a tour. But here, focus a little more on how things are structured, how do they ensure supply management, how do they ensure the sales, the finances, every aspect of it, how are they controlling these small pieces. Be very curious, be very inquisitive. The next 2, 3 years, of course, the whole life is a learning experience, but the next 2, 3 years, question everything that's coming your way as to, how. Now, I mean, inquisitiveness, asking questions, being very curious has helped me gain a lot of knowledge. Now, but my knowledge is still 0.1% of this world's knowledge, right? But where are we? I mean, how much we can focus, keep getting on, keep asking questions. Why is this? Why? What material is this? AC made up of? Why is this structure like this? I mean, a very basic thing I'll tell you. So I had this question. I think 2004 somewhere, 5 somewhere, that, why are houses in, all across the world having a shape, a hut type shape, right? Most European houses, if you see, had that. Why do we not have it, right? It's a very basic question. Somebody, if, I think if I would have focused enough in my academics, I might have been, able to construct this. But learning doesn't stop is what I'm here telling you by this example, that, I found out that because there are places with ice, a lot of snowfall, you have to have places, I mean, you have to have structures which are hut type. So, I mean, triangular roof, just so that the ice just goes away, right? I mean, water is the biggest enemy of construction of a building, correct? And therefore, you avoid water by that. Now, this is a very small thing, but asking questions like this, why are these, what are these aluminum composite panels? What is this? Anything and everything can be a subject. You don't have to restrict yourself only to your academic subject and say that, hey, I'm a master at, this one, right? You can have a question about anything, and that there goes your learning for life, right? Everything. You'll keep learning as long as your inquisitiveness is alive. Yes, keep questioning. Okay, now, so you'll enter into practical world. Some of you right in the next years or right in the next 2 months. Some of you maybe after 2 years, after your full-time MBA is done, you will enter into your practical world. The practical world, I think a little bit of a feeler you've all got from what you've seen in your parents' life, in your relatives' life, as to how they conduct their business, how they how they are at their job if they've shared their experiences, and how then they manage the personal life as well as work life, right? You've seen that. But here's now the next 2 months or the next 2 years after you complete your full-time MBA, you will enter into a world which is non-compromising and a lot of expectations. And slowly these expectations will start building with you. You'll have to balance out. There'll not be much options, but understanding that world here will also start making you a little more attentive, focused on what you're learning. Say for instance, a subject like in MBA you have this human resources wala subject, right? I mean, a lot of focus is on when we talk about management, it is about planning, directing, etc., etc. Then when we talk about human resources, it's about having the right resourcing, treating them well. Everything actually happens every small place that you see, right? These aspects are touched upon, just that we don't focus enough. The studies only help us to make this, make these everyday aspects a little more, better, professional, optimized, however you want to say. But studies is that lever which will push this, experiences to a different notch. You might have seen if you have a relative in a clothes store, you would have seen a lot of people who are either a salesman, either a at the cash counter, how they're treated versus how in a corporate it is treated. I'm not demeaning. I'm not really saying that that is bad or this is good. All I'm saying is these are very aspects. If you see how this person is treated versus how he should be ideally treated. I've just read a para on, let's say, human resources engagement, and then you relate it to that. These are very small aspects that will keep at least, say, you'll start to think through as to how to improve, and that's all that you need to do. Now, given the world that you will enter in, it could be two things, right? It could be either you are ending up as at a job, or you are being an entrepreneur, right? Both are equally fascinating. Gone are the days when job was supposed to be ki nahi main kisi ka naukar hu types. Nahi, it's not like that. We can be a part of large organizations and we can still have the potential to change a lot of things, change a lot of ways, impact people's lives, both in jobs as well as entrepreneurs, right? You will enter a world like that, but are we ready is the question, correct? Now, your academics will make you ready, but only if you are honest to your academics. There's a lot of casualness that comes in the school levels, in the college levels, but here's where you're going into the depths of the subject, right? Understanding the smaller intricacies of what are different aspects of managing a certain thing, how should we be looking at those things. But your academics, be very conscious from here on, you need to really imbibe all that thing and probably also try to implement when your chance comes. All right. Another aspect that I wanted to touch upon was the size of the organization, right? And that's where your scope will be defined. Now, if you just imagine yourself, right? So if you are a part of a small business and let's say you're appointed as a finance manager, you'll probably end up doing the accounting for that business. You'll end up doing managing the finances. You'll end up, liaising with the banks for a, commercial loan that business requires. You'll probably double up, triple up with a lot of roles. But the more bigger the organization, the more narrower is your scope, right? The work that you will be doing is only a small subset of it, right? Am I even making sense? Is this understood? Okay. I'll also, want to augment it with an example. Let's say, I'm opening a small store, right? It could be a small franchise. Uh, how many of you have seen Goli Vada Pav? Anybody? Anybody? So it's a Maharashtrian brand, and here, I mean, they have some centers, so they work on a franchise basis. You take a franchise, and let's say you've taken the franchise, you will be when you're starting the operations, at the most you might have one helper, right? Now at that point, you are in the supply chain as well. I mean, I hope you understand how a franchise model works. Yes? No? Okay. So you would have taken a franchise, you would ensure these supplies, you would ensure, there's a frontal office, a counter, a retail counter, there is a billing, there is, somebody who's preparing that vada pav, somebody who's billing it also, and therefore it's just at the most 2 people or 3 people's operations. But if it expands, what happens? As it keeps expanding, you will require specific people for specific roles. Today, there might be, say, 20, 40 customers per day. And therefore, it's easier to manage between 2 people, 3 people, correct? But what happens when, let's say, your sales are gradually increasing each day, and then you have almost like 400 customers hitting your counters each day. You definitely will require 2 cash counters, 2 people who are, working through, maybe more than 2, right? Working through, 2 people dedicatedly just to enter the, accounting and records, correct? Then another person who's, managing the finance. Let's say now the, sales have gradually increased to 4,000 customers per day. What happens? The same person who's at, probably was doubling up between a cash counter and finance. I mean, say at the evening he was doing the accounting of it. Now there'll be 2 people, one who's dedicatedly doing the accounting, one who's dedicatedly only at the counter, correct? Imagine there are, even more, say 12,000 customers. Then what happens? You won't be able to do it 1 person at the sales counter. You will require at least 3 people, 2 people, 3 people on a shift basis. Okay, you stay here, then you finish your shift, the other people come in, right? Imagine now, erstwhile, there was one person who was, probably having multiple roles, sales to accounting. But now it is segregated, he is only focusing on sales, right? This is one example. When you talk about industries, when you talk about manufacturing, companies, you have large scale operations, and therefore you understand that in the evolution of, in my example, let's say that, the franchise which was going from 40 customers per day to 4,000 customers per day, it took that evolution, right? The first stage of evolution, second stage, third stage, right? When you will be entering the industry might already be in the 15th stage of evolution, where there is so much segregation that now even, so all operations are very, very divided, very, very, narrowed in the scope. Of course, everything is controlled by the, the structure. And then there will be a stock manager, there will be a, sales manager, there's a finance manager, there's an accounts manager who's all giving, their summary status to the owner, correct? So which stage of the evolution you will join an industry is something that you may not be able to decide, but you need to have enough inquisitiveness and wanting to know the entire value chain, or the big picture, the way we call it, right? So we say understand the big picture. Do not restrict yourself just to the role that you're given. If you're said that, hey, your job will be, that you will be on this counter, you will be handling the customers' queries or customers' escalations, or you will be on this counter entering the invoices in the system, maybe that's your job, but you don't have to restrict yourself only to that job. You pretty much can expand, at least by stitching all these threads together, seeing how these dots make a full structure, correct? You may or may not have the exposure, or you might not be allowed or not allowed, I'm not sure, depends on which organization you go into. But as long as you are probing into, your thing should be that you're able to build the entire value chain in your mind, right? How, what am I part of in the larger ecosystem? Where is my contribution? What am I doing? If you're not having the big picture, your job or your role in that every day will be a very monotonous thing. You'll just set your mind into saying that, hey, I'm here today, I'm just coming in. My job is to just get to, enter these 100 invoices, go back home. If that's what you're doing, you're absolutely wasting your talent and potential. You may still end up doing that, but nothing stops you from knowing the entire thing. Know the entire thing, so when you're able to speak to your friends, to your colleagues, or to your relatives, or to your parents, or to anybody, right? You'll be able to have much more confidence in saying, this is what I do. Right? You might still be doing only a small part. By design of it, even if you want to, you can't do everything, just because of the scale of operations that has grown into, let's say, 4,000 customers. You cannot practically man the cash counter as well and do the financial accounting as well. You cannot. But what doesn't stop, what shouldn't stop, is your inquisitiveness in knowing the big picture. Always have the focus on the big picture. Now, I'll touch from here, I'll want to touch on something called outsourcing. What is outsourcing? Anybody? Getting something from outside. Can you give me a very small example, a relatable example? Again, a little more. Can you? Costumes in what? Like, can you give me a context? For photo shoots, good enough. Say, I think a relatable example that I can give is, say for example, sorry. No, so let me give this example and then let's come back to it. What is outsourcing? It is sourcing our work to an outside person who's more professional, who's more specific, who's more experienced at something, right? Take a small example. What happens when you have a function at house? You hire a caterer. We hire a caterer, correct? If we really want to do it within, our premises. If it has to be in a banquet hall, everything is taken care by the hotel, right? So what used to happen, say 25 years back? Correct, we ourselves would prepare, correct? Some of our relatives would come to our home and they would help preparing some of these stuff, right? You might have already decided on a recipe list that this is what we'll make, this is what we'll make, and some relatives will be at some at some, right? They'll all start preparing. But what happened over a period of time is, you thought that, in that what happens is sometimes, your curry is saltless, or it's, something is overcooked, something is undercooked. Rather, you said maybe, I don't know, what do you call, we say Maharaj. We call the Maharaj and then we give him the responsibility of doing it. Correct? So I'm hiring a professional and he is at my kitchen, he is doing it. But I'm still supplying him all the materials. Correct? All the oil required, all the grains required, I'm still supplying him, he's the one who's doing it. This is still insourcing. Okay? Outsourcing happens when we say that, hey, I don't want to take care of any of these things. I don't want to bring those grains. I don't want to bring oil and anything. You do it, your responsibility. I know that you do it well. This person is a caterer, correct? So he prepares everything at his side. He brings ready-made. He puts up in a good counter and he sells. Not sells, sorry. He's yeah, he's serving. Good, thanks. So he's serving. Now, what did we do? We outsourced our work to a more professional person who's doing it comprehensively with his manpower, his resources. I'm only paying for the service, correct? I'm outsourcing my work. This is a very small example, but this is what happens in the outsourcing world, isn't it? Now, tell me an example of, something where you heard outsourcing. Call center operations, anything, say accounting operations, designing a website, correct? When there is a professional, when there's a, a person who's very good at, say, any of the design platforms using the CAD, AutoCAD, etc., he is the one who's designing. You're just telling him, please, design the website and give me, correct? I'm paying him. Now, services versus outsourcing, there is a difference, right? So when I was saying call center operations, okay. Now let's say you have a small business and you have customers escalating for that, customers having issues. What do? You have one person to answer those queries, correct? But when your business becomes large, you want to have a person or a team dedicatedly on just the customer service. Then comes a stage where, say you want to have a department of about 15, 20, 50 individuals who are only looking at customer queries. So what happens? Companies say that, hey, this is a call center. What it will do is it will have a lot of companies. It will have a tie-up with a lot of companies. Come a customer query for let's say it's a washing machine customer care. So what happens? There's LG, there's Samsung, there's Whirlpool, etc. Correct? There are customer inquiries that are coming in. Whirlpool may choose to have a customer care department within themselves, that this is insourcing. But when they say that, hey, XYZ is a customer care call center, they say Whirlpool will be one of its clients, and it has already 100 professionals employed in that call center, and each company ties up with that call center saying that, hey, any customer queries for my products, please handle. If it is anything to do with more technical thing, you can always divert it back to us, but at least primarily you take care of all our customer queries, correct? So that is what the call center is doing. It is effectively outsourcing. This company is outsourcing its customer query wala department to that XYZ call center, correct? Outsourcing, understood. This could be in anything, right? I said an example of catering. I just said an example of customer care. It could be anything. Basically, bottom line is that I'll focus on my core. Whirlpool is focusing on its core business, which is manufacturing washing machines. It is not getting diverted by a lot of customer care that it will come. I mean, queries might come. Understood, or should I give another example to this? Understood? We move ahead. Okay. Any questions on outsourcing as such? It's an important topic. When you go into the corporate world, you will see the term outsourcing very much. Any questions to it? Does it help your understanding as well? Okay. Any questions to outsourcing? You will keep hearing this term a lot. Have you understood what is the logic? Good. Now, we'll move slightly from the topic of these outsourcing, etc. But yes, good question. Outsourcing is when you have indigenous, or you have operations that you want to have a professional deal with. Freelancing is, again, from two perspectives, right? The person who's doing the freelancing or the person who's availing the freelancing services. For the person who's availing, it's no different, because either he avails from a say a organized company, or he gets it done from a person. Like for example, the website designing, correct? Now let's say a large player can do it for you, large company can do it for you. As well, if I know, the person has the ability to, he has learnt an AutoCAD course and he can do it for you. He also knows the network designing, etc. Then he can build a website for you in a lower cost, correct? Now, both in a sense are, this example doesn't suit for outsourcing when we say website designing, because it's a one-time service. Outsourcing happens for recurring services, right? But again, coming back to your question, freelancing versus outsourcing, sorry, freelancing, yes, freelancing is one time that you're supporting somebody. Outsourcing is when you are having your own operations that you're pushing out to somebody else who is a professional at it, right? I will, say for example, what happens with accounting services, right? Now, let's say I am a pen manufacturing company. Ma'am, I might need a little more time because how much time do we have? Okay. Am I like, how much time do we have for the next session? Okay. All right. So, okay. All right. What we'll do is I'll park this example of outsourcing because there are certain other things also that I need to check. But your question is clear. Freelancing versus outsourcing. Good. Now, a few other things that I want to cover is we'll delve into the industry as such. What is asset management industry? Right? What's anybody who can tell me what is asset management? Anyone? Okay. Now, asset management is typically the wealth management in another form. Basically, when you have wealth, what do you do with your, let's say, savings? So if you, let's say, over a period, you built a savings of 2 lakhs, 3 lakhs rupees with you, or even 50,000 with you, what do you do traditionally? Sorry? Paying our dues is good. Let's assume that at this stage, you don't have a due. This is only talking about your personal, wealth. What do? You invest. We invest. Where do we invest? Good. Shares. Good. So traditional, investing always entailed, avenues like gold, real estate, FDs. Very few people actually would go to stock markets. Today, the markets are pretty open. Over the last 4 years, you've seen a lot of, vibrancy in the investors' interest as well, right? There have been a lot of people who are starting to invest in shares. But are you equipped in investing into shares? It requires a lot of research, analysis, understanding of the company and its operation and its future book of work. When I say future book of work, it's potential contracts they might have, correct? So everything, shares is quite a dynamic thing. I'd say that's the most risky, the most dynamic thing. If you're only looking at the ticker and investing, just when the ticker goes and your company name, in which you invested comes and then it again rotates and come back. If you're investing only basis those rates, you're nothing but gambling. Correct? You're just gambling. You're just betting on a certain stock that if it goes 10 rupees higher, I will sell it. That's not the way. This way, you're just doing a more polished way of gambling, nothing more than that. When you're investing into something with substance, with research, with analysis, with a knowledge of the macroeconomic factors as well as microeconomic aspects that touch the company, right? Its demands, its supplies, its the government policies that are affecting the company for the next set. If you really believe that, hey, healthcare is the next big thing, then that's where you would be investing, right? It requires a lot of research, but can you afford all that research? You may be passionate at something, unless it is a full-time occupation, full-time profession for you. Investing in shares has a very different meaning versus trading in shares, correct? If you're trading just basis a sentiment, just basis a ticker, you're gambling, right? Investing requires a lot more knowledge, research, analytics into it. Now, say for example, I have about, say just hypothetically, I have about 10 lakhs to invest. What I do, I invest into something. It might or might not be my expertise area, right? Let's say I want to invest in, real estate, right? Is that my expertise area? If I want to invest into stock markets, is that my expertise area? Have you really done research analytics on stock markets? Do you know, say for example, do you know what is a double hump? Do you know what is a candle effect? These are research analytics that goes into a stock market, right? If you're not that professional, then investing into stocks is something that you should stay away from, unless it's backed by a very professional and sound advice that, hey, invest into this company because I really believe. Don't hear to an advice who's also gambling, right? He may say that, hey, this stock is good, but if his approach also is based on just a ticker based thing, then it will not help, right? Now, so what asset management does is, this is an industry. There are professional asset managers. Asset is that cash, that investable surplus that you invest into, or you have, let's say 10 lakhs, you say a professional person that, hey, please manage my asset. Cash is your asset, your investable surplus is your asset. You are entrusting that into an investment manager, and that person becomes the asset manager. The whole asset management industry thrives on people's money collected through mutual funds, private equity funds, venture capitals, and then they manage that asset. Managing, how do they manage a certain asset? By investing, actively investing, when to buy, when to redeem, when to hold. This is what they know, and these are professionals. These are professionals with proper qualifications of, say, CFA or the investment analytics related qualifications. When you give money to them, they manage your money. At the end of year or at the end of any period that the fund is, you will get your returns. What are we talking about how does it relate to the practical world? The fund industry is nothing but, say, mutual funds, say private equity funds, infrastructure funds, real estate funds. These are funds. What do they do? What does a fund manager do? It gathers, all these investable surplus. So when you invest in a mutual fund, what happens? You invest, let's say, 10,000 into a mutual fund, correct? What happens? It goes. Have you ever seen, who's the fund manager? These days, the apps are very, very transparent. They tell you what, if you are investing through a mobile app, let's say Grow, let's say Paytm Money, something like that, you get the proper profile of the fund manager also. He tells you, it tells you that this is the fund manager, this is the total asset base that it is covering, this is where it is investing, these are the industries, these are the companies, this is how much cash it is keeping, this is how much cash it is investing, correct? That is asset management industry. These fund managers, these fund houses, let's say it's you invested into, let's say, BNP Paribas fund. So BNP Paribas is the asset manager. The company is called asset management company. Why do they do this? Of course, they will, get management fee out of it and performance fee out of it, correct? Now, like a mutual fund, if you understand the construct of a mutual fund, there is a concept of private equity fund. What is a private equity fund? Anybody? Sorry? Okay. Now, like mutual fund invest into listed shares, correct? Private equity fund invests into private closely held corporations. That's the difference, right? So private equity fund. Investors invest into the private equity fund. Private equity fund in turn invests into the opportunities which are closely held private limited companies, right? How is it unique? It's still a unique product offering, but how is it unique? Only because in the listed thing, you can go on an exchange and you can trade. You can purchase a certain share But let's say I want to invest into I see a lot of potential in, let's say there's a printing press right out opposite, okay? And let's say I want to invest into that, printing press because it's quite a booming business. I see that there's a lot of potential. I also know that at some point he wants to convert, that thing into the next digital, trend, breakthrough. He is investing into, and I want to invest into his business. If let's say it's a family owned company, correct? And if I say that, hey, I want 20% partnership in your company, what do you think his reaction will be? Will he allow me to invest? Let's say it's a 50 lakh company, a 50 lakh company right opposite printing press business, and I want to invest into it. I'm saying that I'm ready to invest 10 lakhs, give me 20% share in your company. Will they give me? No. Why? Why? Because they might see me as a person, one, outsider, two, that I may influence and take over the entire business. Why would you give ownership to a certain outsider? You won't, right? Correct? So he'll most likely kick me out of the thing, like, who are you, etc., etc. Correct? He will not allow me to invest into his business. But on the other side, even that, let's say it wants to expand its operation in, let's say, Vijayawada, Guntur, Nellore. It's had a lot of success here and it wants to expand its operations. What does it need? What does that company need to expand? The first and foremost thing, cash, investment. It requires money to be able to expand into various centers. So if it's a family business, if the family has enough money, good enough. But if they don't, then it will be an opportunity, but not the, so it will be an opportunity for sure, but then he does not have investors. So what does it do? If it's a printing business, where should it approach for that surplus? Typically, where should a company go for more funds? Banks, loans. It will go to loans, but will bank give a loan without a collateral? Right? Let's say it's a 50 lakh business and it wants to expand 3 more centers and it requires 1.5 crores more investment. Any bank will give that investment? No. So what will how will they approach? Because it needs to have that collateral also, correct? It cannot pledge any collateral, so bank will not give any loans. Investors, but if you go to investors, what happens? Your ownership dilutes and therefore you're bringing an outside investor, correct? And where you were, as a printing press organization, where you were individually taking decisions that I want to explore, expand in Nellore, etc. Today you're not able, if you become a company, what happens is you have to call a AGM, you have to call for shareholders' approval to give us approval for expanding into Nellore, Guntur or Vijayawada, let's say. If they consent in the AGM, if you have 2/3 approval, then you go for the business, otherwise you don't. As an owner, it cripples down your ability to manage your business in your own way, and therefore comes the role of private equity. So private equity are these large investors, institutional investors who are looking to invest into your business opportunity without really asking you the ownership dilution of it. So you know for sure that this guy, even if he comes in, even if ICICI Bank is coming in as an investor, it will not dilute my ownership because that guy does not have an intention to get into printing business. Correct? Okay. Now I'll stop here. I know I'm on time. I'm up on time, sorry. But any questions that you would like to ask? Correct. Does that feel? No, I think everything is basis circumstances, right? So sometimes company might say that, hey, I want you to relocate at that. Otherwise, we don't have a role for you here. isn't that uncomfortable for the company to do that? They have to do what's practical. You have to get those things right, unless you're really doing it just for nothing. Correct? You're just doing it for fun. You're just hopping companies. You're just jumping over one company to another just for fun, just for a lure of a better offer. You will run out of those things, right? But as long as you're honest about why you want to do that, and you really are running out of any chances otherwise, you will have to do those choices. Now for me, the project was not here anymore. I settled the project in Pune, but because of the health constraints I had to move back, so I had to find another company. There was absolutely no regret to it. Okay, I think pretty much it. Thank you.
Everyone, I take the opportunity
presentation.
to
Thank you so much.
for the lecture. Visionary leader, Avinash
I hope so. I don't think I covered all the aspects
Dr.
of it,
Sushila
but there's a
Kanduri,
time
ma'am.
when I should have
Esteemed
taken
Principal,
my
Mrs. M.B. Fanimala, ma'am. Head of the Department, Mrs. P. Shweta, ma'am. B. Haripriya, ma'am.
Please come.
Faculty Coordinators, Mrs. V. Shivachaitanya, ma'am. Distinguished faculty and students. I extend my heartfelt gratitude on behalf of Avinash College of Commerce for organizing this annual corporate lecture series. We thank Mr. Srishant Jain, sir, Senior Vice President of SIPCO, for gracing us with his expertise as a guest lecturer for our annual corporate lecture series. Your insight into the intricacies of corporate life and your personal and professional experiences have been incredibly enlightening and invaluable to all attendees. Special thanks to our principal, Mrs. M.B. Fanimala ma'am, for her continuous support and encouragement. Starting from questioning and curiosity's importance, understanding organization scale, outsourcing, and importance of big picture, your the speech and lecture were so much valuable to all of us today. It equipped us with crucial skills for our future. A big thank you for our faculty coordinators, student coordinators, and all the students who participated in making today's guest lecture a success. Your efforts and enthusiasm have truly made a difference. Special thanks to the IT and admin team for their support in organizing this lecture seamlessly. This lecture has been incredibly beneficial for all involved, providing valuable insights and practical knowledge that will undoubtedly benefit us in our academic and professional journeys. We eagerly anticipate more such enlightening lectures in the future, continuing to broaden our horizons and enhance our learning experience. Now, I request our principal ma'am to gift the sapling to our guest speaker.
Thank you.
Thank you once again, sir, for your time and expertise.
Too heavy for it's
Not
okay.
at all, not at all.
Thank
Your
you.
gratitude.
I'll keep, ma'am. It's
Get
okay.
it put in your vehicle. Huh?
Very well.
Much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for listening me out. I know it's some portions were boring, but that's okay. You've gone with me.
See the sheen on their faces. I don't
Hopefully,
think-
hopefully. But yes, I'm on LinkedIn. Should you, want to connect at some point, you can always add, a request, joining request. I can oblige. All right. Thank you.